Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. Today we have a pretty rough looking Raven ZZ plant. We have droopy stems, we got broken stems, and we have exposed rhizomes. So I have a pretty good idea of what's going on with this plant, so let's check it out. So recently this stem just kind of flopped over. It will not regrow from that same stem, so this piece is pretty much toast. You can just rip it off like that, I guess, if it'll come. And then you'll be left with these stumps. Now, a healthy ZZ plant should not have these stems break off. Sometimes if it gets knocked or bumped or like physical damage, then they can snap in half. But as far as I know, you should not have just these kind of droopy stems. So this is telling me that the plant is under some sort of stress. This little stem here got pretty shriveled up, and then it just ends up dying back to a certain point, and then you're left with these little stump type things. Now what I've been doing lately is you can just twist them and snap them off. Same with this one here too. They come off quite easy like that. But what is causing the stress in the plant? It does have a few kind of new growth points, but these have been coming in really slow. There's another one back here as well. And then here's that exposed potato-like rhizome. So there's no rot or anything showing on the rhizome, so I know this isn't due to a root rot issue, but there are definitely some signs that's telling me this is extremely root bound. A couple of years ago, I experimented with a different type of soil. I basically just used some orchid bark, and then I added in a mix of silica sand. Now, although this is a really good, like well-drained soil, it dries out way too fast. And anytime the plant gets really dry, you'll start to see some wrinkles on the stems. So I know that's what happened to a few of these. So definitely it is underwatered, and like I said, I'm suspecting it's probably root bound, so that doesn't help as well. And then having it in a terracotta pot just kind of compounds that issue, because terracotta, it's porous, it absorbs soil moisture, and it evaporates it out fairly quick. So this plant is severely underwatered and it is severely neglected. So yeah, we're gonna try something a little bit different, but there's one more thing that tells me this is root bound. We're gonna come right over here. I noticed this today. When you have roots not only growing out the bottom like that, but when you have roots starting to grow out the top, there's basically no room at the bottom, so any new root growth is just going to push out of the soil. So you can see there are some roots popping out of the top of the pot here, so I'm pretty much guaranteeing that this is root bound. So if you see signs of roots popping out the top of your soil or pot, time to pull it out. I have a whole bunch of pots in my shed, but I'm actually running out of larger ones. So I have two that I can try today if it is root bound and I need to upsize it. But I also have this beautiful Talavera pottery. I want to see if it'll fit in this pot, but it's not really much larger than the pot it's already in. It has a little bit of a wider base at the bottom, but if it's really root bound, this is probably the best option for this. But I really want the plant to go in this, but there's only one way to tell. Take it out of the pot. So I have my little butter knife here, and I'm just going to go around the edges and just kind of loosen it up a little bit. Now, I do want to get rid of a lot of this like sandy soil. Like I said, it really didn't work well for me. I have this in fairly high light as well, so it's definitely a thirsty plant. Okay, I'm just going to dump it here, and then I'll show you the roots. Yeah, it's all pretty much sand, so I'm just gonna shake that loose so I don't get my floors all dirty, but this thing is about as root bound as you can get. So check that out. I just rinsed off the root system so we can have a little bit of a better or more clear look at it. But look at these big juicy roots. This is a fantastic example of what a rhizome looks like for the ZZ plant. It just looks like a big giant potato. All the growth will sprout off of that. You can see here's one of those little stems. Just twist it right off, Here's where another one popped off before. Each plant or each stem here comes off one of these rhizomes, so you can actually separate these if you want. Now I'm torn for a couple reasons, one of them being the pot selection. So you can see overall, like, it's not that much bigger. So this is a 6-inch pot. I don't have my measuring tape, so I'm not too sure what this is, but although ZZ plants like to be, you know, fairly snug in a pot, there really isn't much area or room for the plant to expand. So I don't want it to look like this, you know, 3-stem, 4-stem kind of gangly mess. So when I bring over this pot and I place it in the pot, you can see it has a lot more room to expand its root system and produce new growth. Now, clearly this would be my first choice just because it's an absolutely gorgeous pot, but I think for today I'm gonna have to settle with the boring green, just plastic nursery pot. This one for sure is the better choice, and it's the correct choice. Now for deciding what type of soil to put this in, just because the orchid bark and sand really had no moisture retentive values to it. It basically just ran out the bottom, and clearly the plant has struggled. It's been severely underwatered. So what I think I'm going to try this time is a combination of aeroid mix and a cactus and succulent soil. So here's the aeroid mix, and then I'm going to be just dumping in, and I'm probably going to take some heat for this, but just some cheap old Miracle-Gro cactus and succulent soil. I just took out a little bit more of the aeroid mix. I can always add more. I just don't want to mix it up and then not use it all, kind of thing. So I'm gonna get my spoon and I'm just gonna stir it up. So this stuff, it's just like, it's not the greatest, but it's not the worst. There's definitely some sand content in there, and then just some little kind of bark and perlite. So I'm just gonna mix this up. With it being in an aeroid mix, I think it's going to be, or combining it with an aeroid mix, it's going to leave it a bit more chunky. So that actually looks pretty good. If you had some extra perlite, you can add some perlite, but I think overall that's a pretty good mixture. And maybe as a little reassurance for you folks out there, I repotted my precious jade plant in the Miracle-Gro cactus and succulent mix, and it's doing just fine. So you just obviously have to give it the right conditions. So good light, water when it's dry, you're good to go. I had some comments, a couple comments I think, on a few videos saying like, why would I pot it in that garbage? But I've never had any issues with it, so, but that's just me. I'm just gonna dump a bunch in here, and then I'm just gonna use my pencil just to kind of poke it around the edges here, making sure it's upright. I can bring it up just a little bit, but I want this like potato rhizome pretty much covered up. I just want the soil just at kind of the top of the rhizome there. So, and then those roots should be able to expand kind of laterally out in the pot. It's looking better already. I really like this soil consistency, so something like that. These guys are flopping over, so I'm just going to pack that down a little bit. Might have to get a little bit more soil, just to add maybe a little bit more of that cactus mix just on the top there. Just poke that all down. Actually, that might be okay. I might just add just a little bit more, because you can see that rhizome right here is still exposed. So I'm just going to dump just a little bit of this soil. It's almost the perfect amount. So I'm just gonna dump a little bit more on top here. And then I'm actually gonna go over to the shower here and give it a good soaking, because it definitely needed some water before I repotted this. So there, something like that, and it should be good for probably at least another year or so. Okay, here's the finished product. I just took it over to the shower. I gave it a good rinse, as well as a good thorough watering. So yeah, it looks way better already. It's looking a little spindly, but I'm hoping that these two new growth points will push out some thicker stems, and then it'll spur some more growth popping out I did remove all of the broken ones except for this one right here. So yeah, I'm happy that it's in a new pot, something a little bit larger. I'm gonna put it back just off to the side of a south-facing window, so it's gonna get some really, really good light. So I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this repotting video. If you're seeing signs of just droopy stems, having to water more often, roots poking off the bottom, roots poking off the top, then pull out of the pot, look at the root system. Anytime your plant is looking stressed, whether it's yellowing or anything like that, take it out of the pot, look at the roots, and then just go from there. Thanks for watching all my videos. I appreciate all the support. Take care, everyone. Bye.